time's up on the red card. Ms. Jen Jennings.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jean Jennings, and first of all, let me say that I apologize for not being on the same page with you all at last county council meeting. Some of the problem was my fault, and I feel like some of the fault is the sound system. Maybe it's not turned up quite high enough. I have a hearing problem, and a hearing aid won't help me. I have narrow canals in my ears, and I thought I could use the hearing device here tonight, but I don't think it's going to work. It was roaring. So I was not prepared to speak, and my name wasn't on the list. I should have declined, not being prepared. I was also having back trouble. I've had back trouble. I had back surgery years ago, and I have arthritis in my back. And when I have this pain, I cannot stand long at a time. But I want to apologize for you all for not being on the same page, and I appreciate the chair that you provided at the last meeting. I also wanted to ask about the Utica area. I think the trash bins will be good there. It's a good idea if the people will use them right. And I wanted to ask about the store. I heard something about the store possibly being at Utica or around Utica, or and I wanted to know about that. But anyway, that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Council member comments. I'll start off by saying that we acknowledge that we received a letter from the Planning Commission concerning adding deputies, and we will address that letter in the Budget Committee meeting coming up. Other council member comments?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add the item discussion to possibly sell the building that we purchased for the magistrate building, and I'd like that to be placed above the reading about the demolition of the magistrate. Mr. Chairman, that's a motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, regarding Ms. Jennings' questions or regarding a store in Utica, I think that's what she was referring to. I'm not aware of any current plans to do anything in Utica. There have been discussions, but those who are working on things have not authorized anyone, as far as I know, with the county to disclose anything publicly. So I can't talk about that. I heard maybe on Sunday some things were mentioned by other folks, but I haven't been given any permission to talk about things that may be happening there. So and perhaps we can reach out to those folks and see if they're okay with disclosing that, but it seems I don't know that there's any way we can talk about that right now. But that's all I can say unless somebody says we can talk about things.
Any other comments? If not, moment of silence, please. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you for this day that you've made. Thank you for making us. Help us to remember that dependence that we have, that we are not our own, that we owe really all good gifts to you, and including the order that you bring to this universe, this immense, amazing universe, and that you care for us in our smallness and in our potential greatness that comes through you. Help us to do great things this evening through you in humility, and that you'd bring order here. In your name I pray, amen.
Mr. King, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the February 16th regular minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to approve the February 19th, 2021 strategic planning retreat minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Ms. Brock?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your acknowledgement of the correspondence from the planning commission regarding the law enforcement officers. I want to remind council and our public, you're all welcome to attend. Our first budget workshop meeting will be Friday, March 19th at 9 a.m. here in council chambers. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Ruth?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Only item, I just wanted to address 2021-06. This is captioned the amendments to Chapter 32. We've called them the Traffic Corridor Design Standards. As you recall from our last meeting, you all moved to recall this from the Planning Commission. Also recall that the temperature in the room, so to speak, was that this was not going to be a favorably heard ordinance. I just want to remind council that we'll still need a motion to approve it on second reading and a second for that to bring it forward, y'all, for a discussion. Just because you move to approve it doesn't mean that you have to vote in favor of it. It just gets it in front of you to discuss. At that time, y'all can discuss it and then vote for and against, however you want to. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ruth.
That's right.
Mrs. Megan Ketterman?
Good evening, council members. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. My name is Megan Ketterman, school board member for Oconee County District 2. I have a special guest with me here tonight who I will introduce to you a little bit later. And I cannot wait for you to hear what she has to share with you. Did you know that more than 500,000 children in this country, actually more than that, 13 million children in this country, will not hear a bedtime story tonight? More interesting is that only 48% of young children in America are read to each day. Not only is reading critical to literacy and brain development, but it creates a special bonding time with a parent or caregiver. Research shows that reading aloud is the single most important thing that we can do to prepare a child for reading and learning. Learning to read is about listening and understanding, as well as working out the letters that are printed out on the page. Through hearing stories, children are exposed to a wide range of words, increasing their vocabulary and improving their understanding when they listen. This is vital as they progress in their learning. The number of words a child knows entering kindergarten is a key predictor of his or her future success going through school. Your example can demonstrate a love of reading and that books are a pleasure while learning. Part of developing a lifelong love of reading is also giving children books with characters who represent them and who have a different experience from them. So I want to bring your attention to the words, the power of 15. And I'll explain this to you a little bit later. Some children begin kindergarten having been read to as few as 25 hours, while their peers may have been read to as many as 1,000 hours. By age 4, low-income children have heard an average of 32 million fewer words than their peers. Reading aloud is the key way to introduce new vocabulary into a child's learning. Even in higher income households, nearly 40% of families do not read aloud every day. If a child is not reading at grade level by the end of first grade, then there is an 88% probability chance that the child will not be reading at grade level by the end of fourth grade. Now, back to that power of 15. Reading for just 15 minutes a day for 5 years equals 27,375 minutes, or a little over 456 hours. So a little bit does go a long way in a child's early years of development. A child is never too young to learn that books are fun, engaging, and something that our families value. On behalf of Dr. Thorsland, who is here with me tonight, the Oconee County Schools, we would like to thank you for declaring March as National Read Across America Month with this signed proclamation that I will be here with you tonight to receive, and helping us increase the awareness and importance to our citizens and our families. So now I would like to introduce to you Miss Noah as she shares something special with you.
Hi, my name is Noah Esparza, and I am 8 years old and I am a reader. Tonight I will be reciting the Read Across America Reader's Oath. I promise to read each day and each night. I know it's the key to growing up right. I'll read to myself, I'll read to a crowd. It makes no difference if silent or loud. I'll read at my desk, at home and at school, on my beanbag or bed, by the fire or pool. Each book that I read puts smarts in my head, because brains grow more thoughts the more they are fed. So I take this oath to make reading my way of feeding my brain what it needs every day. Let this oath inspire your students to become lifelong readers. As Harry S. Truman once said, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. Thank you for listening and have a great night.
Mr. Davis, will you read Proclamation 2021-02?
It's a hard act to follow there. State of South Carolina, County of Oconee, Proclamation 2021-02, proclamation recognizing March as Read Across America Month. Whereas the citizens of Oconee County understand that the importance of reading in a child's life begins at birth and is critical to their development and learning achievement, setting them up for success as they go through school. And whereas the citizens of Oconee County will be committed to reading together, as this is a catalyst for enhancing a children's vocabulary, creativity, imagination, and critical thinking skills, which all promote future academic success and exceptional workforce preparedness. And whereas the leadership of Oconee County stands grounded in providing support of reading programs and activities for our youth, as this is a key principle to our community's well-being and reducing the trajectory of poverty for our children. Whereas the Oconee County, in partnership with the School District of Oconee County, will celebrate March as Read Across America Month, a national reading promotional time that will ensure our children are in a safe space reading together with a supervising adult, increasing their amount of family bonding time for the betterment of our children's future. Now, therefore, we, the County Council, do hereby proclaim National Education Association Read Across America, and commits our community to engage in the programs and activities, ensuring our children have the best opportunities for success in a globally competitive world. We call upon our children, families, educators, librarians, public officials, and all people of Oconee County to observe this month with appropriate activities to promote and encourage reading. Approved and adopted, second day of March 2021. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Ketterman, Dr. Thorsland, can you join us? Yes, please.
Make sure not to block him, okay?
I'm gonna present this to folks.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Now, do you wanna hold
Thank
it?
you. Thank you.
There we go.
Appreciate it.
Take a picture.
All right, scoot over this way for me. Stay reading. Reading. Good job. It's all right.
Thank y'all.
Oh dear, sorry.
Let's see, presentation to council, would Mr. Earlman please come up?
Thank you, Mr. Montes.
This may or may not work.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, I'll hit it for you, but hopefully.
It'll work. Good deal. All right, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, that is a hard presentation to follow. I have a 7-year-old at home that I read to every night, so I can certainly appreciate that. But again, my name is David Irwin. Hope you all are doing well. I'm with Malden Jenkins. I was the partner who oversaw this year's audit of the county's financial statements, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all this evening to discuss with you all the results of this year's audit. The purpose of this presentation, again, is just to introduce our firm to you all, provide you an overview of our independent auditor's report, the 2 compliance reports that we issue as part of your audit, hit a few of the financial statement highlights, discuss some information that the auditing standards requires that we communicate to you all, and of course, answer any questions that you all may have. For those of you who are not familiar with our firm, just kind of want to briefly talk about who we are. We are a large regional firm. We have 9 offices in 5 states. You all are currently being served out of our Columbia office, but we have offices nearby in Georgia and Tennessee that can assist when needed. We serve approximately 500 governments throughout the Southeast. The majority of those governments are in Georgia and South Carolina. And you all are one of 9 South Carolina counties that we serve. Again, we have approximately 25 managers and partners that spend 100% of their time auditing state and local government. So for us, there's no tax season. Again, this is our sole focus. So again, just kind of wanted to introduce our firm and give you some information on who we are. But we are certainly appreciative of the opportunity to be of service to the county. Now for a brief overview of this year's audit. The financial statements themselves are the responsibility of management and members of the county council. As your external auditor, our responsibility is to issue an opinion on these statements. Now, we conduct our audit in accordance with governmental auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. And I'm happy to say that we are issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on this year's report. This is what you want. This is the highest level of assurance that we can provide you all as your external auditor. What this means is that, in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As part of the audit, there are 2 compliance reports that we also issue, the first of which is the single audit report. A single audit is a compliance audit that is required when an entity spends over $750,000 of federal funds. You all had around $1.5 million in federal expenditures this year. As was the case with the financial audit, we are issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on the single audit as well. The second compliance report is the Yellow Book report. This is a report on the county's internal controls and its compliance with various laws and regulations. I'm happy to say that we do not have any audit findings to report to you all this year, meaning that we noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses during our audit. With all the new accounting standards that are being implemented each year, and really just how complex the financial statement reporting process has become, it makes it all the more impressive when I can report to a county council that we're issuing a clean opinion with no audit findings. As you can imagine, this year's audit came with its own unique set of challenges. There was quite a bit of uncertainty on our end as to how the pandemic would affect our June 30 audits. And I'm happy to say that from an audit standpoint, this year's audit was business as usual. Liddell, Sally, the entire finance department, they really did a very good job under, again, some very unique and unusual circumstances. As always, they were very accommodating to our staff. They worked hard to answer any questions that we had and to get us the information that we needed in order to get the audit finalized and presented to you all. So again, just a special thank you to your staff. I can't thank them enough for their hard work, and they did a great job this year. Now for a brief overview of the financial statements. You all prepare what is called a comprehensive annual financial report, otherwise known as a CAFR. A CAFR includes additional information that goes above and beyond the basic financial statement reporting requirements. This document is submitted annually to the Governmental Finance Officers Association, otherwise known as GFOA, where they put it through a pretty stringent review process. And their goal when they look at your CAFR is not to assess the financial health of the county, but to make sure that there is sufficient information in this document so the readers of your financial statements can do so themselves. And through their review of your financial statements, they have once again awarded you all the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And I believe this is the 12th year in a row that you all have received this certificate. And that certificate is included in the front of this year's document. So again, congratulations to you all. This is an impressive document and one that you all should be proud of. One section of the financial statements that I always want to briefly mention is the Management's Discussion Analysis, otherwise known as the MD&A. It starts on page 4 of the financial statements. If you only read one section of this report, I strongly encourage you to read the MD&A. I could certainly understand you all not wanting to read all 150 pages of this report cover to cover. But what the MD&A does is essentially summarize this document in about 10 to 15 pages. It does a really good job of, again, summarizing the basic financial statements, as well as providing an analytical overview of the financial activities that occur throughout the year. In addition, there's quite a bit of comparative information in that section, meaning that the financial information for not only fiscal year 20, but also fiscal year 19 are disclosed. And to me, that adds a lot of value to the reader. It's a lot easier to understand the current year activity when you have the prior year numbers right beside it to compare it to. So again, if you can, I strongly encourage you all to take the time to read the MD&A. The county's basic financial statements are broken down into 3 components, the first of which are your government-wide financial statements. The government-wide statements, they provide a broad view of the county's operations in a manner similar to what you would see in a private sector business. All the funds of the county are combined under either your governmental activities or your business type activities. And this slide right here just has some financial information on the government-wide activities. As you can see, the county ended the year with assets and deferred outflows of resources of around $222 million. Of that amount, around $138 million are your capital assets net of accumulated depreciation. You all had around $104 million in liabilities and deferred inflows of resources, which resulted in an ending net position of around $118 million for the year. That's an increase around $3 million compared to prior year. Of that $3 million increase, again, around $1.1 million is for your governmental activities, and your remaining $1.9 is for your business type activities. And one thing to keep in mind, as far as net position goes, that's not necessarily what you all have on hand in the form of cash to spend as you see fit. Net position is merely the difference between assets and liabilities. So all in all, again, a relatively flat year, but it's 2020. I think a flat year, we'll take that any day. Anybody have any questions on this? Okay. With regards to governmental activities, this is really the only time you'll see the county's operations reported in this manner. In the day-to-day operations of the county, the focus is more on the funds themselves. And that brings me to the second component of the financial statements. Those are the fund level statements. Again, this is what you all typically see throughout the year. This component focuses on the individual parts of the government, excuse me, in more detail than that of government-wide statements. And when you talk about the individual funds of the county, your general fund is of primary interest to you all. It's the main operating fund of the county. The chart here has your revenues for the year, which is around $49.5 million. And that's an increase of just over $1 million compared to prior year, which is about 2% increase compared to prior year. Again, any questions on this? Okay. Like most local governments, the majority of your revenues are your property taxes, which is around $36.8 million for the year. And again, that's about 74%. That's about 74% of your total revenues for your general fund. Couple notable fluctuations. Your property taxes, they increased about $400,000. That's a little over 1%. Your licenses, fees, and permits increased by about $908,000. That was just under a 22% increase for the year. A couple of decreases worth mentioning. Your charges for services decreased by about $140,000 this year. That's merely COVID related, from what we could tell. Your intergovernmental revenues decreased by about $195,000. Intergovernmental revenues, those fluctuate from year to year. So it's not uncommon to see those type of fluctuations for your intergovernmental revenue. This chart shows the general fund's expenditures for the year by major function. Your expenditures total about $48.6 million. That's around a 2% increase from prior year. So while your revenues increased by 2%, your expenditures also increased by about 2% as well. As you would expect, public safety and general government are your major functions of your expenditures. Public safety was around $21.5 million this year, and that accounted for around 43% of your general fund's expenditures. That percentage is right in line with other governments that we see of your size. So nothing to be surprised of there. A couple notable fluctuations. Your general governmental expenditures increased by approximately $762,000, which is about a 7.4% increase. Your culture and recreation increased by about $725,000, which is about a 24% increase. Your public safety actually decreased somewhat by about 2%, or around $439,000. And your transportation expenditures decreased by about $544,000, which again was around a 13% increase this year. Or I'm sorry, 13% decrease this year. In total, the general fund's fund balance increased by about $3.6 million to around $25.6 million this year. So you all had a pretty good increase in your fund balance. The chart right here shows your fund balance history of the general fund over the past 5 years. You know, it's always interesting to me to reflect back on where you've been and compare it to where you currently stand. And again, as I mentioned earlier with your net position, fund balance is not what you all have in the form of cash for discretionary spending. Again, fund balance is merely the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which is cash on hand. Another thing to remember, included in that fund balance in your general fund is the $6 million advance that was advanced to the Focus Fund that needs to be paid back to the general fund. So again, that's a significant receivable on the general fund's books that will not be repaid. It will be repaid over the next several years. Additionally, another thing to keep in mind, the general fund incurs expenditures on average about $4 million per month. So with you all having a fund balance of $25 million as of June 30, it's good to see that you all have a strong fund balance as of June 30 to get you through the months of July through November when your revenues are typically down. So, another thought on that, the GFOA, which again is who we submit your CAFR to for certification, they recommend that entities have between 3 to 6 months worth of operating expenditures in their fund balance. So again, you all are sitting there with 6 months worth of fund balance. You're right in line with GFOA's recommendations. A couple other funds I want to briefly mention are your two enterprise funds, which again are the Rock Quarry Fund and the Focus Fund. Enterprise funds, they're used to account for operations in a manner similar to a business. You know, the goal of the enterprise funds are to be self-sufficient, meaning to generate operating revenues, sufficient operating revenues to cover your operating expenses. And as you can see on this chart, the Rock Quarry Fund continues to do just that. It ended the year with operating income of around $2.8 million. You know, as has been the case the past couple of years, the Focus Fund does not have any operating revenues or operating expenses. The only activity of that fund is the lease receivable to One Tone Telecom, which again is offset by that advance that's due to the general fund, again, that I mentioned earlier. A couple items worth knowing, when you look at your enterprise funds, your Rock Quarry revenues increased by about $360,000. But your expenses increased around that same amount, by about $356,000. So operating revenue for your Rock Quarry Fund was relatively flat compared to prior year. It totaled around $2.8 million. So after accounting for your non-operating expenses and your transfers to other funds, the net position in your Rock Quarry Fund increased by about $1.8 million for an ending balance of $12.6 million for the year. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, there's no revenues or expenses in your Focus Fund, and the assets are offset by the liabilities, so you all have a net position of zero in your Focus Fund. This slide, we disclose some information that the accounting standards requires that we communicate with you all. You know, with you all having a clean opinion with no audit findings, this is merely a formality, but again, it's still information that we must disclose. We had no difficulties in dealing with management. We had no disagreements with management. We had no uncorrected misstatements, and again, we are independent of the county as required by governmental auditing standards. That concludes my presentation. You know, as I mentioned earlier, there's quite a bit of information in your financial statements. What I've tried to do is just hit the highlights of what I think is of most importance to you all. But again, if there's any questions you all have, or you want me to further explain anything that I didn't go after or get into, you know, please don't hesitate to let me know. But
I've got a question.
Okay.
So the certified CAFR, is it correct that that helps our bond rating?
It does.
Good, thank you. Second question, I see where the unassigned fund balance went from 7.2 to 9.5 million between 2019 and 2020. So an increase of 2.3 million. And so under the current budget, based on the ordinance that requires us by 2025, to have 25%, we've got about $3 more million to go on that. On the management recommendations, you had two: information technology and cybersecurity. You suggested that we put in an implementation of a risk program. Can you go a little bit into that?
Yeah, cybersecurity is really becoming a hot topic with local governments. It really gets to the point where you can't, it's hitting the news pretty often where local government's getting hacked or for ransomware. And, you know, just, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a water sewer department in Florida that got hacked. And they were trying to poison the water supply. So that's some scary stuff. So again, with all this being at the forefront, we're just kind of suggesting to our clients to look at your IT, to make sure that proper procedures are in place, and to take that cybersecurity threat seriously, and you know, just oversee your IT to make sure there's no issues there.
Okay. And then the second point was we were late filing an FAA filing, is that correct, for the airport?
I don't have that with me, and I
Okay.
apologize.
Well, I do. So, Ms. Bright, what corrective action are we taking so that never happens again?
For the late filing for the FAA?
Yes.
There was a change order based on the FAA's requirement, and this was all brought to council and previously approved, because they separated the airport improvement plan progress grants. We were late in submitting the second request for AIP funding, which actively were under AIP 25, 26, and 27. which at one time had been considered one project. The road relocation, the west apron expansion, and the filling in of the large hole there for the apron expansion on the the western end of the runway. That filing was based on our working with the engineer to ensure that we could operate both progresses at the same time under one bid, which is currently under construction now. It was an extenuating circumstance that should not happen again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. There is no public hearing. Third readings, there are no third readings. Second reading of the following ordinance 2021-06, an ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Oconee County Court of Ordinances in certain limited regards and particulars only regarding the establishment of traffic order design standards and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
If there's no discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Ordinance 2021-07, an ordinance increasing the not-to-exceed tax rate for the Kiwi Fire Tax District from 14.5 mils to 17.5 mils, consistent with Article 6 of Oconee County Ordinance 2003-12, which established the Kiwi Fire Tax District and Kiwi Fire Commission. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
First reading, no first reading scheduled. First and final reading of the following resolution, Resolution 2021-04. A resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of supplemental agreement number 3, amending lease number DAC W21-1-14-2011 between Oconee County and the United States of America and other matters related thereto. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion regarding action items. Transfer station floor replacement, solid waste, project $115,000, contingency $11,500, total award $126,500. The transfer station floor at solid waste is in need of repair due to operational abrasion and deterioration from leachate, which is expected wear and tear. The original floor was installed in August of 1998 and lasted 8 years, 11 months. In May of 2007, the floor was replaced with a 6-inch free-floating wear surface floor, which allowed for sections to be removed and replaced if needed. The floating floor was awarded to Leak & Associates under invitation for bid number 06-26. This bid was for replacing steel plating on the walls, replacing a wall, and to replace the transfer station floor. The county received 2 submissions with only one that included pricing for the floor replacement. Leak Associates was awarded the contract. The wear floor that was installed in 2017 has lasted 13 years and 8 months. It is now showing wear around the edges and in the center and requires replacement. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question.
So the floor that was put in previously has got a section so you can remove, so we're talking about replacing the whole floor now, not just worn
Correct.
sections?
It's, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
sorry, sometimes I just blurt out an answer. So this is a floating floor essentially in the transfer station. And because of the high PSI concentration of the concrete, the patch is no longer a viable option, and it is time to replace the entirety of the floating floor. This will be a 2-part motion too, if I may, for us to authorize the administrator to sign and change orders within the contingency amount as requested.
Is that part of the motion?
It's within the staff recommendation, I think. Yeah, there's 2 items, which was 1, to approve the sole source award for the transfer station floor replacement to Leak and Associates of Monroe, North Carolina, an amount of $115,000 plus a 10% contingency for a total award of $126,500. And the second part was to authorize the county administrator to sign any change orders within that contingency amount.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
O'Brien 750 trailer mount sewer cleaner, culvert pipe washer, roads and bridges, $69,460. This purchase is for an O'Brien 750 trailer mount sewer cleaner, which will be used as a culvert pipe washer by the Roads and Bridges Department to clean storm drains, catch basins, and culverts. An added benefit to having this unit is the cost reduction and conflict with utilities that happens during a full culvert replacement. Fleet Maintenance Director also approves this purchase. The county is utilizing the North Carolina Sheriff's Association contract through a corporate purchasing agreement. The contract discount is 3% off the list price of the equipment and 6% off the list price of attachments and accessories. Carolina Industrial Equipment of Charlotte, North Carolina is also offering an additional dealer discount of $3,508.97 off the contract price for the trailer mount sewer cleaner, culvert pipe washer, and attachments. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we've got the amended agenda item.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of order, probably the best way to frame this would be a motion to list the former Free Gospel Holiness Church property for sale at a price such that it will receive nothing less than fair market value, and then y'all can take it from there in discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. Just I brought the motion up, had some discussion with Mayor Ramey today for City of Westminster, and in that discussion, he was talking about the need for developable property in the City of Westminster, this being one of those. And his feeling that by the county building that there would take away a good piece of property. That property had been for sale for several years, had actually not been on the tax book because it had been a church since sometime in the 90s, which is why it was selected to be a good place for the magistrate. We did buy that through auction and received, in my opinion, what a good price is for that, with hope that we could rehabilitate that building, but at the same time, a possibility that we could tear down. As we've seen, the cost to tear down the building is around $44,000 to $45,000. So that cost to demo and build a new building is the cost of demolition. It to me is well within reason. The cost to build right now is excessive due to the kind of environment that we're under right now. So after speaking with Mayor Ramey today and talking about that, and him feeling like that would be a good piece to market, I will, what my motion is to put it up for sale for, 8 months to a year. I'm fine to say a year, due to the fact that he feels like this property could be developed into something that would be more beneficial to the City of Westminster than a magistrate building. So I tend to side with him if that's the way he feels that would be in the best interest of his city. Then I feel that way. I still stand by my decision to purchase that building. And hopefully if this passes tonight and we do put it up for sale, somebody will purchase this and either maybe have the ability to rehabilitate that building itself or build something that does go on the tax book for the City of Westminster. But I in no way regret purchasing this building. It was as much research as I did to find a place to put it. I still stand by this place, but at this time, I will side with the mayor on this as he sees this being a better fit for something else. So that is my motion. Or that's my discussion, sorry.
Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank Mr. Davis for helping the city of Westminster, and I think all the people in Westminster should appreciate it.
Any other discussion?
May I please? Before we discuss what to sell for, I want council to have an accurate reflection of the expenditures on the building to date, so that when we do discuss quote-unquote fair market value, we do understand the county's expenses. Not that I have a feeling one way or the other, I just feel like y'all need these numbers in front of you before I give you them. And there are some numbers on here that would be expenses incurred by the county in either direction. Obviously, the land purchase itself is for the land. For the Terracon Environmental, that would be something that would be a benefit as to the seller or the purchaser for that. And the field measure, test fit, and the exterior view, those are basically conceptual drawings that we had, said there will be no recoupment of those monies should that building be transferred to anyone else. Asbestos survey obviously would be a benefit to anyone interested in purchasing the building. The design build, that is where we did the survey for utilities, sewer, water lines specific to that site. Now, because that building has been designed and drawn, that plan can still be utilized in another place. We just may have to add some additional money to that for it to be on a separate site. So that money may not be recouped in its entirety. The plan itself is not lost in its entirety either. Does that make sense? And then obviously the engineering permitting fees and all of that was for the structure itself. I just want to make sure that everyone had an understanding of the expenses incurred at the current site. And some of those expenses obviously would be a benefit to anyone who was interested in purchasing the facility, since we'd already done some of the due diligence in that, and that some of those cost items we would not necessarily need to recoup in their entirety, because the product that we have in hand is still a benefit to the county should we choose a different location.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
I mean, going forward, we must do proper due diligence to protect the taxpayers' money. And I appreciate, the council willing to reevaluate, but I mean, you're putting taxpayer money at risk. I have a question. The hole in the roof.
Yes, sir.
Do we have anything over that hole now? Is it patched at all?
It's got a tarp over it right now because the roof is in such bad condition in its entirety that the patch, it's not safe for anyone to get up there. We would need to contract that out to have a crane service either do that repair, which was my next recommendation if we decide to put it on the market. We need to address, or council needs to establish a certain limit of expenditure for a repair to be made. I will say I do not believe that the roof can be fixed by our staff. I did have staff go evaluate it. The roof is weakened around where the hole is, and there is a picture and back up. It's weakened around where the hole is, and I don't feel like our staff would be safe. I feel like we would need a crane to make a repair. Now, when we did talk to staff after they went and evaluated how dangerous it was in the first place, they did say that they felt like the roof either need to be replaced or, which is the item we placed on the agenda this evening, since that was the intent in the beginning, was that we know that we have enough funding allocated for the Westminster Magistrate facility for the demo to happen. It seemed counterintuitive to fix a roof when we knew that the building was going to be demoed within a few months anyway. Or we assumed, I'm sorry, not new, I'm sorry. Thank you, Katie.
Mm-hmm.
So this roof right here, this hole in the roof right here is approximately 2.5 by 3 feet. It's a significant size hole.
Mm-hmm.
It's above another structure. Under this structure, there's a dome-shaped building from where it was a roller roma, I'm told. So there is not a whole lot of water getting into the facility that we know of. But we also have not gone in between the two structures wall set to see what kind of water damage has been incurred in there, if any.
Mr.
Any other
Chairman.
discussion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Durham, we did do our due diligence on this. The building rained on the inside of it. When we looked at it, 4 different times. The thought process was where the connection was, where the main building itself was, is because it's encased inside of that style building. That hole was already there when we looked at it. So from a standpoint of due diligence and looking out for county funds, that's the reason why this building was chosen. Because number one, it took a dilapidated building that was not taxable at the time off the market, and put a setup of where we could actually put a magistrate. So from a standpoint of county funds, my goal was to put an investment in the city of Westminster, to take the place of what you're seeing up there with a big hole in the roof of it. Around the steeple leaks as well. And this building has been for sale for several years. So from a due diligence standpoint, we looked at about 17 different properties throughout there, and really thought about what it would take to build this in specific areas where it was really originally chosen before I came on council, which was, in my opinion, the middle of 2 culverts in one of the lowest sections of Westminster, that I knew was not in the best interest of citizens' funds and taxpayers. So, when we went through with this, what we selected was in the best interest that I felt and council voted for citizens. As we sit here tonight, there is, because of the expense of building in 2021, it's probably not a bad thing to kind of hang out for a year. Somebody comes in here and buys it, great, we didn't lose any money. Either way, I think to hold off and put it up for sale is a good decision based on how expensive it is to build right now. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I agree that's a good idea to sell it, but when you talk about due diligence, now we're looking at, when did we buy it, 2019? Is that correct, fall?
September 2019, I believe, yes,
So
sir.
you're looking here a few years later and we drop it back and punt, and so we've owned that building since 2019, and there's been a hole in it leaking since then. And this had, more years of damage, but that's all.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just for a point of order, the motion was to list the property at such a price point as to receive no less than fair market value. So I think that motion is proper and sufficient at this time. It leaves administrator the discretion to list that property at the right, hopefully a fetching price. Obviously, any sale of county property comes back to you all, has to be done through an ordinance process with a public hearing, and we also have to have an appraisal of the property. So there'll be that further check and balance up the road.
Thank you.
And if I may get a clarification one more time on the length of time we want it on the market.
We can do a year, that's fine.
Is that part of the motion?
But it wasn't part of the motion, but I think it's just an administrative thing. You can just bring it back and give an update.
Okay,
I think
thank you, sir.
Don't want to box ourselves in, but have an idea of
Thank you, sir.
when you want to have it.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? All in favor? Well, the next item is now mobile.
Well, I think probably the best way is to make a motion to approve and then postpone this one.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the demolition of the former Free Gospel Holiness Church?
I'd like to make a motion to postpone.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Heritage Farms Eastern Entrance and Road Improvements. Road and Bridges, the project is $382,747.23. Contingency of $19,137.36 for a total award of $401,884.59. This bid was issued January 7th, 2021 to select a contractor to provide construction services for the new turn lanes and Eastern Entrance Road to Heritage Farm Center located on US Highway 123. The base bid is for all work within the limits of roadway construction, including clearing and grubbling, roadway construction, paving, erosion control, storm drainage, and grassing. The bid was advertised and emailed to 34 bidders on February 9th, 2021. Formal sealed bids were opened. 2 companies submitted bids, with Thrift Development Corp. Of Seneca, South Carolina, submitting the lowest responsive and responsible bid, $382,747.23. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Council committee reports, Mr. Hart.
Had the Transportation Committee meeting February the 16th at approximately 4 p.m. The first thing we did was approve the minutes from December the 17th of 2019. After this, Mr. Kyle Reed of the Road and Bridge Department gave us a presentation on roads in 2 different subdivisions. In the Willow Creek subdivision, the road Twin View Drive had met all the qualifications and standards, and we voted to accept it, to bring it to the full committee for exception. The next subdivision was Waterside Crossing subdivision, and there were 4 roads on that. Whitewater Way, Baywood Court, Windy Point Lane, Lake Breeze Lane. And these also were brought up, and they were voted to bring before the full council. So now I want to make a motion. Should I put all into one motion?
One at a time.
One, okay. Make a motion that we accept Twin View Drive of Willow Creek subdivision.
Second.
Any discussion?
And just to note, that's contingent on receiving the right-of-way, as is stated in the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Hart.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the roads in Waterside Crossing subdivision, those 4 roads that I named. I need a motion to approve those.
So move.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Mr. Durham.
Okay, so on February 16th, 2021, we had the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting. We start off the meeting with Mr. Swain Steele, Solid Waste Director, addressing the committee and giving a brief update on concerning solid waste and recycling. There was no actions taken following that discussion. Next, Mr. Root addressed the committee and gave a brief overview of the proposed changes to the county litter ordinance. The committee voted 3-0 to direct the county attorney to work with deputies at the Oconee County Sheriff's Office to revise and present to full council for approval. Next up, Mr. Root addressed the committee, gave a brief overview regarding the intergovernmental bail service agreement. The committee voted 3-0 to direct the county attorney to finalize the agreement with the Oconee County Sheriff's Office and present to full council for approval of a template. And then regarding the Sheriff's Department and staffing, Sheriff Crenshaw addressed the committee and no actions was taken. Oconee County Emergency Services Director, Chief Scott Crine, addressed the committee and gave a brief update regarding the assistance to firefighter grant, firefighter trucks, and staffing and retention. Again, there was no committee actions taken. And then the next Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting is scheduled for April 20th. That's all.
Is there a motion to approve model intergovernmental jail services agreement to be used by the Oconee County Sheriff and local municipalities?
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Board and commission appointments. Building Codes Appeals Board, there is no questionnaire on file for at-large seat. Conservation Bank Board, District 5, there's one questionnaire on file for this.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Scuddy Walker for this position. He lives in District 5. That's my motion.
Okay, all in favor of that appointment?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just briefly, Mr. Walker noted on his questionnaire that he was part of another county board. He wasn't referring to one of our county boards. He's part of a nonprofit that works with the hospital as an eleemosynary, as a pastoral counseling type group. I just wanted to make that clear, so if someone looked at that questionnaire, they knew what he was saying.
Thank you. Let's see. Library Board, there's one at-large seat, two questionnaires on file for this seat.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Nicholas McKinney.
All in favor of that appointment? Council will go into executive session for the following purposes: discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Rise, and 2, receive legal advice and discuss economic development matter regarding Project Palmetto. Is there a motion to go in executive session?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Second.
No action was taken in executive session. Mr. Ruth.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I need a motion in relation to Project Rise to instruct staff to continue negotiations as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is it a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Make a motion.